Hey everyone, welcome back to Knowledge Mondays. I'm your host, Dana. This is your go-to weekly series for quick and actionable networking advice. And I'm thrilled to have Stacey Brown Randall, a referral expert, here on the show today. Thank you so much for being here, Stacey.
Thanks for having me, Dana. I appreciate it.
For December, our theme is collaboration. And Stacey, since you're such an expert on referrals, we're going to focus today on a specific type of collaboration, which is referral partnerships. Now, my main question for you today, Stacey, is how do you recommend someone go about establishing a successful referral partnership?
Yeah, so I think that's a pretty common question that people ask when they first start thinking about referrals. They're like, okay, great. I want to get referrals. Like, how do I get started? Or what should I do? Or what should I do to like really develop that relationship? And I think that where you have to start is backing up by a step and really paying attention to where referrals are ultimately going to come from. So the way that I teach referrals to my clients is that referrals exist in an ecosystem, right? So there's not, excuse me, there's not one place. There's not one type of person who's ultimately going to refer you. They're living there in this ecosystem within your business. And the thing to pay attention to is the who always dictates the what. And I think that is one thing that people skip over. They're just like, what do I do? What do I do? Right. And I'm like, well, first you got to figure out who you're doing it with or who you're doing it for. So the way I teach my clients is when you're thinking about referrals and we're IDing the who first, referrals are more than likely going to come from three places. Number one, people who are already referring you. We call those our existing referral sources. And the longer you're in business, you will more than likely have some folks who are referring you. The second group are going to be what's happening within your client experience and your ability to generate referrals from your clients as a natural part of how you're working with your clients. And then the third group of folks is going to be able to refer you what we call potential referral sources. They're the people you want to refer you. They've just never done it before. And the strategies, the tactics, the language are very different for those three groups of folks. Now, so we call them referral sources. Those are the people who can refer to you. Within that, there's a couple of definitions, right? So, of course, they can be clients, though not all businesses will have clients refer to them, but they can be clients. They can also be centers of influence or what I call COIs. And those are folks who know what you do. They don't do what you do, so there's no competitive overlap. And then, of course, here's the kicker. They come across your ideal client with some level of regularity. So you've got clients, you've got COIs. You can also have family and friends refer you as well, but that is more dictated by what you do. Like for what I do, I still don't think my mom knows 100% what I do and couldn't refer me if she tried, right? But on the other hand, my husband, who's in sales, totally gets what I do, and he has referred to me. So some of us will never have family and friends refer, but others will. That'll be like a source of referrals for them. So when you think about the types of folks who can refer you, whether they're existing referral sources or they're potential referral sources, they're going to be clients, COIs, or family and friends. And then, of course, within our client experience, that's just what we do for clients while they're working with you. And so before you say, what do I do to establish a good referral relationship or a good referral partnership, is the first thing is to figure out, well, who should be referring you? Who is already referring you? And then we focus on, okay, what they need is not necessarily what you want. And that is one thing that I think really confuses folks. And they're like, wait, what do you mean? Like what they need, like what you want are referrals. What they need is not to be asked for referrals, not to be reminded to refer you, not to be told that they can make money if they refer you, because all of those requests creates work in their mind. The minute you ask somebody to refer you, now you've just given me a to-do list item. And I don't know about you, but my to-do list is way too long as it is. I don't need your stuff on my to-do list, right? But the science says when I do refer to you, I want it to be my idea. So when you ask me, you're making it your idea, which means I'm less likely to do it. And so when you think about, okay, these are folks I want to generate referrals from, you have to step back and be like, the first thing I need to do is make sure that I am showing care to the people that I want to generate referrals from. And I have to be more focused on them and what they need and kind of release my expectation from the outcome of generating referrals. I find I have a lot of folks that first come to me and they are like white knuckling it. They're like hanging on really tight, trying to like maneuver these relationships and train their referral sources and make sure people understand who they're looking for an ideal client. And it's not working and they can't figure out why. And I'm like, because you're white knuckling it. You're squeezing so tight, trying to make this work the way you think it's supposed to work as fast as you think it's supposed to work in a way that only works for you, that you're like suffocating the opportunity for anybody to refer you. And when you're willing to be like, there's a group of people. So let's take existing referral sources, for example, right? You have people referring you now. The question I always ask my clients are, those folks are taking care of your business because they're sending you clients. Do you think that you should also then be taking care of them? As long as the person's not dead inside, the answer is usually yes. Yes, I should be taking care of them. I'm like, then that's where we start from. It is showing care and thankfulness and gratitude to the people already taking care of your business. Now, of course, there's a science-backed framework of what that looks like. It's not just, sending champagne to everybody every like once a month or once a quarter, and it's not trying to take everybody to coffee every single month. It's not that kind of stuff. People are usually surprised when what that outreach of care can look like. But it's rooted in the science of referrals and it really understands putting the other person first while also making sure that we are using the language that we want that'll generate them thinking about referring us. And so there's an art and a science to it. There's a science-backed framework that I teach my clients on what it looks like. But at the fundamental heart of it, it is your willingness to say, you take care of me, so I'm going to take care of you. And I know that will generate more referrals, but I'm going to do it without the squeezing the life out of it, without that white knuckling. And I'm going to just take care of you in the right way and trust the process, which is, to be honest, sometimes hard for business owners to do.
That this was a very eye-opening conversation, and I think I already know your answer, but I want to still ask this question. So, do you think these referral partnerships should be formalized with a contract, or do you think it should happen more organically?
So when we start talking about contracts, we're no longer talking about referrals. So to your point, to your question, yes, I believe these things are developed naturally and organically. I think there's a strategy behind them. I think that there is a framework and a strategy, and that delivers the tactics and the language that you will do to cultivate referrals. This is very much something that can be measured. It can be tracked, and there are metrics behind it, and there is an ROI on getting referrals. So it's not like, oh, I got to take care of them and see what happens. Like, no, it's much more I would say in depth than that in terms of how the strategies work, but it comes from a heart of wanting to take care of people. When we start talking about like formalizing those referral relationships, right? I always tell my clients that's not a referral relationship. At that point, we've now moved into what I would call a strategic alliance. If we're talking compensation, if we're talking contracts, right, then usually there is some type of referring back and forth, right? And it's not even really at that point referring, it is passing leads. It is passing clients. So if you're thinking about, hey, I want to have a strategic alliance with this company. They need to send someone my way, or I need to send someone their way. And there's a back and forth. Certainly, as a business owner, you get to call your own shots, right? You can create a strategic partnership, but really understand you're not referring in the way we define referrals from a psychology of trust and brain science and things like that. That is a strategic partnership, a strategic alliance where it's formalized and you know exactly like who they're going to be, not the people, but the type of folks they'll be sending your way or the type of folks you'll be sending their way. And compensation is usually exchanging hands in that case. And that's why we don't refer to it as referrals. It's a strategic partnership. But the thing about strategic partnerships that people get wrong is that those need to be disclosed to your client. If you're having a conversation with your client and every single one of your clients needs to be handed off to somebody else to do more work and you're going to hand them off and receive compensation, you have to disclose that, or you should disclose that
I
up front
see.
as part of that relationship. If you're like formalizing it and right, because at that point, you're sending your clients to someone that you're being compensated on, or they are compensating you on, however that works, right? Whether you're compensating them or they're compensating you, which means, right, the psychology of trust is not as strong as it is in a referral. So, because when you use the word referral, there's this idea I'm referring you to someone I trust. You can still trust your strategic partner, But at the end of the day, it's commoditized because you're making money off of that relationship, and you just have to make sure your clients understand the difference in terms of, hey, I'm going to send you to this, right? Let's just say you're a brand expert and you're going to connect somebody to an SEO marketer. You're like, I'm going to connect you to this SEO marketer, and they need to know that it may be because they're the best and you believe that they're their best, but you're also getting compensated, and that should be disclosed as well.
Wow, this was very enlightening. Can I ask you to expand on one of the three kind of referral types of referrals? So, the client experience, do you recommend like possibly like referring them to people or just asking what kind of referrals they are looking for to kind of, see if they would do the same for you eventually?
So that dips into asking people, right? This is so
Mm.
if you're talking about having a conversation, whether it's with a COI or a client, and the typical business development conversation is, I'm gonna ask them who's their ideal client, because typically that means if I ask them who's your ideal client, who can I keep an eye out for, your anticipation is, and even if some folks don't admit it, it's exactly what they're doing. You're
Mhm.
expecting them to ask you the same question back. You're expecting them to say, "Oh yeah, so here's who my ideal client is. Who's your ideal client? Who can I keep an eye open for?" And then you're going to explain to them your ideal client. In some situations, that conversation may work. In most conversations, particularly business development conversations where there's not a lot of relationship or trust, or the know, like, and trust factor kind of established, there it's just usually like a lot of hot air, because you're telling me who to be on the lookout for, and then I'm going back to my to-do list and I've got 1,000 things to do, and if
I
I may not
see.
even remember, right, who you said. So I think if you want that person to remember you, you have to do other things first before they'll even attempt to try to figure out who they could refer to you. And a lot of times, if you do it right, it's one of the strategies I teach in our potential referral source process is that they'll come to you and be like, wait, I need to make sure I understand more about your business, versus you trying to have this forced conversation where we're both going to talk about who can we
Mhm.
refer to each other. It happens daily, right? For people who are in business development, right? People who are in business development, their only job is to sell. They're usually in business development pods or leads groups, and they're business development people talking to other business development people. That is an entirely different like scenario in terms of passing leads back and forth. I usually work with business owners. And so it's not just that you're looking for new clients, you're also going to be usually delivering the work, or delivering the work with a small team. It's just an entirely different nature of how you want to generate those referrals. So I know those conversations happen. I also know they don't go far or sometimes
Mhm.
anywhere, right? Because it's just like this typical, like, you tell me who you're looking for, I'll tell you who I'm looking for. And the question is always, well, how do you remember that 6 weeks later? And that's usually where things are lost.
That makes perfect sense, and, yeah, I totally agree about passing more work to them, and, yeah, everyone is very busy these days. So, thank you so much, Stacey, for your time, and how can folks learn more about you and learn more about these 3 different referral sources and ways to kind of get referrals?
Yeah, so the best places to start will actually be my books. I have two books that are out. The first book is called Generating Business Referrals Without Asking, and that is specific to getting more referrals from people who already refer you, existing referral sources. That strategy is broken down in that book. My newest book that just came out is called The Referable Client Experience, and as the title kind of says, that's for the second group of the foundational strategies that I teach, and that's generating referrals from within your client experience and making sure you are referable and can bridge the gap to referrals within your client experience. So the books are a great place to start. I have a podcast, Roadmap to Referrals, as well. If you're more of a podcast listener, that's a great place to start too. We talk about referrals with a new episode every Tuesday.
Great. Well, thank you so much again, Stacey. I'll make sure to link her books in the description so you guys, if you want to learn more, make sure to support her and purchase the books. And if you like this episode, make sure to subscribe, give us a follow, and share with some friends who could use some tips on referrals. Bye. Thank you.